We are not applying for super visa, we are just applying for a visitor visa to stay in Canada for less than 6 months at one stretch. This is one of the problems that I faced in this application. I do not know why this is done the way it is. What all documents you are required to provide in your application? How much money do you have for your stay in Canada? You will not be able to retrieve the responses that you had provided when you had submitted the application. So what I would suggest is, hi guys, and welcome back to our channel. So in this video, we are going to talk all about the visitor visa process for Canada. Recently, me and my wife, we applied for our parents' visitor visa. The whole process was done all by ourselves. We did not hire an agent. So in this video, I'm going to explain all the process that I did. What are the forms that we filled, how we did it. So we'll do a quick system walkthrough right from the start till the end, the documentation that was attached, the fees that we paid. The thing that we are not covering in this video is why we opted for a visitor visa for our parents and why we did not go for super visa or permanent residence forum, and what are the key differences between each of those approaches. That's not something for this video. That's something that is going to be coming up next. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, you can subscribe now to make sure that you are not missing out on that. Along with that, the next subsequent videos is also going to be about their travel experience. So our parents are already here. So the insurance that we took, the flight that we booked, all that is going to come up next. So in this video, it's purely about how to apply the visitor visa for Canada. It's going to be a longer video. So if you are not wanting to know details of every single stage, you can skip to the relevant section by making use of the timestamps on this video. Though I'm using the example for our parents, but it is not necessarily the only individuals who can apply. Obviously, it can be for anyone who is wanting to visit to Canada. So if you know, on our channel, we have got a lot of our videos and content around the family sponsorship process, wherein you are wanting to bring in your spouse or family members in the country. So even for them, you can apply for a visitor visa. I'll again have some more videos on visitor visa applied for a spousal sponsorship application in process again subsequently. Make sure that you're not missing out on that content if this is what you relate to and this is what you're looking for. So without further ado, let's get started. So the steps that are required to follow to apply for a visitor visa is very nicely explained in this page of the Ircc website. I put down the link of this page in the description box below. The high level steps are: step 1, get the documents that show that you meet the criteria. If you click on this link, it will take you to the list of documents that are required. We'll not go there right now. We'll just move to the high level steps first. So you get the documents, whatever that is needed as preparation. You apply online. Now, visitor visa is going to be applied online, but there are two ways how you can do it. We'll explain both of these ways in the subsequent part of the video. If you move to the next part, it's give your fingerprints. Now this is only if you have not given your biometrics in last 10 years. So if you have already been to Canada on some other type of visa and now you're applying for a visitor visa, in that case your biometrics may still be valid. So you may want to have that checked. Since our parents were coming here for the first time, we had to go for the biometrics and there is a fee that you need to pay for that. The next is how we process your application. Is not really a step, but it's an explanation on how Ircc folks do your application processing. So send us your passport. If you are lucky, you have your application approved and you will get a passport request, which is also called PPR. So once you get that passport request, you are going to mail your passport to the VFS or whichever is the body that is going to collect your passport, to send it to the embassy to have it stamped, the Canadian embassy in your country to have it stamped. Okay. And finally, you travel. So these are the key steps. Let's talk about the documentation that is required. So if you click on this link, check the list of documents, it will bring you to this page. Here you need to tell the system what exactly you are applying for, because it's not just for one type of visa, it can be for a lot of other purposes, right? So in your case, is the purpose a business, just a visit, for family visit, or compassionate reasons? So in our case, we selected for a family visit. What's the family member status? It's so we are permanent residents, so that's what we selected. And do you plan to stay with your children for more than 6 months? You intentionally will select no, because that's not what we want. If you select for more than 6 months, then you're not really applying for a visitor visa, you are actually applying for a super visa. So that's not what we are here for. So we select no, and here's the list of documents. So you have a letter of invitation from the person who is requesting you to be here, or you want to meet them, which is in our case, it was us, right? But if you're not coming here to visit a family member, so all you do is you go back and then make the change to visit as a tourist. and then it will just give you the list of flat documents. It does not have a letter of invitation, right? So let's go back and make the selections correctly. If I select a permanent resident, no. Okay, so letter of invitation, we did provide that one. And what you see here is the documents, whether they are required or not required, some description, and what are the different type of documents that you can apply under that head. So in this case, a letter of invitation, what exactly we mean by that? So it explains a copy of a letter from a family member inviting you to Canada. The letter must be written to you from your family member, right? In our case, we wrote the letter of invitation from our side to our parents that we are inviting them to come here and visit us. Okay. When do you want to submit this? You have to submit along with the application. Proof of relationship, we did that. Travel history, again, if you have traveled outside your home country, when I say you, your parents or whoever is wanting to come here, their travel history, itinerary, account statement, lot of other things. So we'll not go through this whole document section right now, but we will come back to this later. So if we go back and we go to the next step, when you click on apply online, you have this option. So how to apply for a visitor visa, you click on it. So here you will say get detailed instructions for your situation. So we are going to get the list of instructions to visit as a tourist, to unite with a family member. So you select that, get instructions. When you click on it, it will say, yes, I want to unite with a family member. Yes. How to apply for a visitor visa through the IRCC portal. You click on it, it will bring you to this page. Okay. So how to apply online with the IRCC portal. It says create an account, complete the online form, pay with the credit card. So when you click on sign up and apply, it will bring you to this page. Before you start an application, tell the system what exactly you are here for. So what would you like to do today? Apply for a visitor visa for myself, apply for a visitor visa on behalf of someone else, apply for a visitor visa for myself and on behalf of someone else. Okay, so let me break this three down. So if you're trying to apply for your own self, like ignore that you are applying for your parents, but you are coming here by yourself as a tourist, then you will go for the first one. If you are applying for a visitor on behalf of someone else, which is in our case, this is what we selected. I was applying for visitor visa for my parents. So I was creating the account and I'm going to have my parents and my wife's parents as the applicants on the application, and I will be the representative or unpaid representative of our family members. What is an unpaid representative? I have a very detailed video that I have explained on the same topic, which was also something that I did for my family sponsorship back in the time. So you can check that one out. The link or card should be showing up somewhere above here, and it explains all the fields that is required to be filled in by an unpaid representative and what exactly that is. Apply for a visitor visa on behalf of someone else. And then the third one is if you are applying for yourself and there's someone along with you who is coming to the country, that's what you will select. So in our case, I'll just select the second one. Do you already have an application in process? No. You will hear from us within 14 to 30 days. Obviously, only when you complete your application. So let's click on get an IRCC portal account. So first we need to create an account. So in this page, if you click on already have an IRCC portal account, no, I do not. So let's write and review. So that's a dummy email. So once you click on get invitation code, you will get this code. Initially, I had a hard time to figure out because I was using Safari as the browser, and in Safari there is a technical issue that shows up and you will not get this invitation code. So right now I'm using Google Chrome to create this application. Once you have this portal verification invitation code, you click on this copy to clipboard and continue to sign up page. So here you paste the invitation code, enter the email address one more time, password that you can remember, surname. So let's say I'm going to use my name, Canada. The last name and the given name is my name. I am not the applicant. I am going to be the representative. If you are not having a representative when you are doing the application by yourself, then you are going to write down your name or whoever is the primary applicant. So click on sign up. So once you create the account, you will get a verification code in your email. So you go here. So once this is done, your email is now verified. You can click on sign in. Terms and conditions, the standard terms and conditions to verify, you click on accept. What are the things that you can do? You can start an application and you can also use it for citizenship. So you can apply for a visitor visa, transit visa or study permit. So what we are going to do is we are going to click on apply for a visitor visa. Once you do that, you will have this page, apply to visit or study in Canada. Make sure that you are eligible to apply. Have these items ready, a credit card, passport, follow the steps to complete the application. And then the key thing to note is once you start your application, you have to submit it within 60 days from the day when you create the application. I acknowledge that everything is read and I click on start application. All right. The first set of questions is going to identify how many applicants are there in the application. So you want to submit an application for yourself plus your spouse and children who will travel with you or join you later. The answer is yes. So I am responding on behalf of the people for whom I am representing. Okay. So right now system does not know that I am the representative. I will be indicating that at some later point in time. So in our case, there were 4 people who were applying under just one application. So there were 4 applicants, but I started imagining that one of them is going to be the primary applicant. So on basis of that, you start your application. If you're just one, it's very simple, right? So do you want to apply for more than one? The answer is yes. Then you will type their name and create a group. So it says, to apply as a group, you will need to tell us what type of group you are. Are you all family members? Submit all the application at the same time and pay at the same fees. Now, you may want to go and one group. There are people who say that if you create a group and if an application is rejected, all the members within that group are rejected. That's not true. I have also heard that there are few people within that group is selected and some are refused. In our case, touchwood, everyone was approved in one go. We click on family because that was the family. If you are having, so you click on family, I can create a name. I can say visit parents visit as the group. So click on save and continue. So that's the group name. By default, since there is one member who has already created the application, they are by default added. So let's say if I add one person, there are 2 rows that will be showing up. The first row is the person who created the application and the second is the newly added member. You can add as many members as you want on this application. So just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to delete one for now and just we are going to submit for one person. But you can continue, add your parents, your wife's parents, or whoever is actually coming to visit you. Okay, so let's click on delete. So click on continue. I want to apply for study permit, transit visa. No, it's going to be visitor visa. So as you see, visitor visa and super visa, the documentation and the way it is done is same, but still the documents that are required towards the end are different. So we are not applying for super visa, we are just applying for a visitor visa that allows you to stay in Canada for less than 6 months at one stretch. And the validity of the visa is as long as your passport in which your stamping is going to be done is valid. So if your passport is going to expire in next 4 years, your visa is valid for 4 years. If it is valid for 10 years, that's the maximum your Canadian visa is going to be valid for. Why do you need a visa? There are a lot of options, and make sure that you're selecting the right option because based on this selection, the documentation that is going to be requested or required by the system to be uploaded is going to be different. Okay, some documents may be optional, some may be required based on what you have selected. So if I go through all these options, the one that we selected was to visit other family who are not listed above or friends for less than 6 months. Or we also have the option of to visit my children or grandchildren for more than 6 months, which is super visa. You can also visit your spouse, you can also visit your dependent child, parents, grandparents who are already in Canada. So a lot of different options. So tell us more about what you will do in Canada, including dates. Make sure that you are being true to the core and not doing any misrepresentation, because if you give an information which is not true, it may result in very negative consequences towards the end and you may be banned for entering in Canada. So what we did here is just read out the tentative dates in by when our parents were going to be here. So let me just write it down. I'm writing from the perspective of the first applicant. So when you will enter Canada, these dates are tentative dates, and make sure that you're giving a realistic date when you're submitting an application. So if you're submitting an application, let's say in October of this year, then you may want to keep your travel date somewhere in the month of towards December or January to be safe. But that does not mean that you have to travel on that day only. It is just a tentative time that you're providing. Okay, so I'll select 2003 December. Let's say on 10th of December, and I intend to leave right in the new year, so I select January. Let's say 5. Is there any UCI number? The UCI number is a unique client identifier, and you might have you as the person who is applying for the visa might already have if you have been to Canada in different type of visa in the past. In our case, it did not, so we just click on save and continue. So here you see you selected visitor visa to see family or friends. It is going to give you the list of documents that is required. Documents you need to complete the application: a valid passport, a letter of invitation, and information that you will be required to enter is personal details, travel details, finances, education, criminality and security checks, medical background, and family information. So it's a lot, and it's a big form. So we are going to just quickly fill up the basic information, and whatever is the highlight which is required to be explained, that's what I will explain in this part of the video. So if I click on continue to application, it will ask, are you applying on behalf of someone else? So in my case, I am the one who has created the account. So I am saying yes, I am applying on behalf of someone else. So once you select yes, there are a set of questions that show up. The first question is, are you an authorized paid representative? Which is what I have referred earlier in the video, that I am an unpaid representative, which is I am a family member who is inviting my parents and I'm creating an application on their behalf wherein I am not going to charge them a fee. So that's the reason I will select no, that I am not a paid representative. Now system is asking me what's the relationship with the applicant then. So I'm going to say I'm a family member, and information about myself, that's the representative, some basic information. So I'll just quickly fill this up. Okay, click on save and continue. Alright, so the next set of questions is about the travel document information of the applicant. So since I am now filling up the first form for my father, I am going to enter all the information, not just for the personal details, but rest of the all subsequent informations in the train stops for my father. And wherever there is a question about who is inviting you, that's where I will fill in my information. Okay, so we'll get to that. Save and continue. The next travel document of the applicant, in this case, it's a passport. So my father has a passport, an ordinary one. So that information I will fill in here. So I'll select what kind of passport. This is pretty basic stuff, so I'm not going to explain every single field. So we'll just quickly fill this up and then move to the next. Are you a lawful permanent resident of the United States? No. If you are, then you will select yes, obviously. Have you held a Canada visitor visa? No. Do you currently hold a valid US non-immigrant visa? In our case, no. And based on whatever selections that you make in this set of questions, the system might ask some additional information. For example, if I select, do you currently hold a valid US non-immigrant visa? If you select yes, then system would ask, give us that sort of information for that non-immigrant visa. Okay, so in our case, I'll just select no and move on. Are you traveling to Canada by air? The answer is yes. Click on save and continue. So we are still in personal details section, and now we are entering the information about the citizenship and places where the applicant has lived. So in this case, my father. So I will select the country where he was born. I will say India. Are you a citizen of more than one country? No. Which country or territory are you a citizen of? So I'll select India again. And I am a citizen since birth. So the moment you do that, your date of birth is defaulted in the country where you have been living. You click on save and continue. National identity document of the applicant. So this is where I would like to point out a situation for applicants from India. So in India, we have a national identification document called Aadhaar or UID. But when you select yes, in this case, you have to provide the date when the ID was issued, which is a mandatory field, right? So here you see the date of issue is a mandatory field and you cannot skip it. Since in our case, I was not able to find the date when the Aadhaar card was issued because the card does not have an issue date. So I selected no, and then I moved forward with the application. And this is what I did for the rest of the 4 applicants that we had on the application. I'm not saying that I'm misrepresenting in this case. This is because I'm just saying that, hey, I do have an ID, but that does not have an issue date anyways. So it's a technical issue, and that's the reason I'm not showing up. If required, I can provide an attachment towards the end as an additional document if that makes you comfortable. But in our case, we just selected no and then we moved forward. Okay. If you are someone who has done the application successfully and if you know what's the right way of doing it, then feel free to let us know in the comment section below. It will be helpful for the other community members. So we move to the next. Names used in the past. Again, in our case, there is no other name that we had. If you have more than one name, you can provide that one. Contact information of the applicant, just pretty standard stuff. I'll just write down quickly. So in this section of contact information, all that is more important for you to know is list of your current country and territory of residence, and all the countries that you have lived in last 5 years for more than 6 months. So if you have stayed cumulatively in one particular country for more than 6 months, you are going to provide that information in this section. It is important to know that your requested documents that is going to be showing up towards the end of the form is going to be dependent on what you really enter in these sections, right? In all the sections, in fact. So in our case, my parents have not traveled anywhere, nor has my wife's parents. So we are going to just enter the information of the current residence. My parents have been living in the country since birth. So this is where I currently live, and click on save. Likewise, if you have more countries, you just keep on adding plus plus plus, and you will have all the countries listed down here. So you click on save and continue. Here, biometrics, fingers and photos of the applicant. You are still in the personal details section. Do you already have a fingerprints? As I was mentioning earlier, if you have given your biometrics in the past, you might not be required to do it again. But in our case, we did not have that. So we clicked on no. I do not have a biometrics. So it says you will be required to submit your biometrics after you pay the biometrics fee and you submit the application. Okay, we just move to the next, save and continue. So as you notice, we have moved from personal details section to application. In this section, we are going to really tell the immigration officer why we are intending to come to Canada and who is inviting us. All that information is going to be here. All right, the important point, when you close this application, you log out and you come back in, you will have to start from the first page. You will have to click on save and continue multiple times to reach through this page. This is one of the problems that I faced in this application. I do not know why this is done the way it is, but you cannot hover your mouse or you cannot change your sections by moving around. So you have to just start from the first. Okay, so here's who is inviting you. Now, since we have indicated that our parents are coming to Canada for period less than 6 months, there has to be someone inviting them. So in this case, it is me and my wife who is inviting. So you can have both of your names written. If it's just one person, obviously you will write only your name, and the person who is inviting can be a representative. So that's also one more the case. So if I just write who is inviting, it's my name. I'll say Ankit. Relationship is a family member. Mailing address, that's the person who is inviting mailing address. So I'll just, obviously you cannot change Canada. You have to write, just write 67 Scarborough. The field is populated. If your address is not showing up, you can click on manually input address. Has someone else also invited you? Yes, it's going to be my wife, who is the daughter-in-law of the person who is applying. So I will have her name as well. All right, so finances. How much money do you have for your stay in Canada in Canadian dollars? So here's the point. You are going to indicate the amount in certain numbers, right? Which should make a logical sense to the immigration officer who is processing your application. The point here is, when you are submitting your documents, there is no document that is specifically asking to validate and prove that you have that exact amount to reflect that you are going to come, right? So that's what we did. In our case, as I'm going to talk more about in the documentation section, we did not provide any fund proof for our parents, and we only did it for ourselves. So in this case, we just gave a random number, which made a logical sense that, okay, if my parents are coming for a period of 1 month, and if they are going to be staying at our place, wherein they do not have to pay a rent, what is the logical amount that they will be spending? So in this case, it is only about food, travel, and other some sightseeing, right? So we just mentioned $4,000 per person. So the next is someone else giving you money for your stay in Canada? So in our case, we selected yes, because we did not want our parents to be spending any amount to be staying with us. So we had selected yes, we are going to provide money to our parents who are going to come here, and we are going to provide the proof of our income and employment to justify the amount that we are going to spend for them to stay here. So here you have to write from the applicant's perspective who is going to provide that money. So in this case, it's my father who is applying. So this is exactly what we wrote when we did their application. My entire trip, including airline tickets, visa charges, food, accommodation, travel insurance, travel expenses, and any other miscellaneous expenses, will be fully sponsored by my son and daughter-in-law. I have also attached a letter of invitation as received from them, along with this application expressing their financial undertaking. I have provided their supporting bank statements, letter of employment, and pay stubs. So this field has got a limit of 500 characters. You have to provide the details just within that. Anyways, you are going to provide these attachments and a lot of the supporting documentation towards the end. So once we are done with the high level explanation, you can move to the next. Okay, so click on save and continue. After application, we move to the activities section. In this section, you're going to provide the information about the education, work, and all other activities of your parents. The problem with this section is that you cannot save the records without entering a value. So whenever you answer a question, if you do not have the answer to that question, just provide a dummy number so that at least you can save the record, go back to your parents, check for the actual information, come back again, edit it, and then make the right modification. Okay, so in this case, post-secondary education history. Have you ever studied at a post-secondary education? If you select yes, you're going to provide the information of that education institute, from the field that you studied, when did you study, what's the address, all that stuff. So just for the simplicity of this video, I'm not going to enter all the information just from the scratch, but you get the idea, right? So just to move forward with this form, I'm just going to click on no. And this might also be true if your parent has not really studied anywhere. So it can still happen, right? Work activities, military or police. Do you serve in any military, militia and civil unit, defense? No. Next is give details of all your employment and activities for the past 10 years. It's a required field and you have to provide the information on what they have been doing. Even if they are not been doing anything, let's suppose they are retired or they are homemaker or they are doing some activities which is not falling into actual work. In that case also you have to provide that information that they are doing so and so activity from one period to the other period in last 10 years. And you do not have to make false representations because it can backfire. Do not include any entries that you are already put for post-secondary education, and for all of the periods you need to enter the occupation or activity. Don't leave any other gaps. When the gap is indicated, it's the time gap. So you click on add, and then from, let's suppose, 1913 to from January to ongoing, my father has been, let's say, retired. Click on the enter the country and the address where they are retired. Now, since I have provided the period for 10 years, I'm good and I can move forward. If your period is not falling within 10 years, like if I move this from 2018 January to ongoing, and if I click on save, if I click continue, it will say that you have not provided the details for past 10 years. So you have to provide all the information without any gaps. So I'll go back, I'll click on add, and let's suppose I have entered from 2018 January, so I have to provide the information from, let's suppose, 2011 January to, or 2017 December. I was working in a management occupation, civil and mechanical engineer. Just provide the information on what exactly was the job duty that entailed. So once this is done and system has got a record of total 10 years of occupation or activities, then you can move forward. So travel history. During the past 5 years, have you traveled to any country other than the one where you are citizen, or where do you live now? In our case, it is no, so we selected no. If you click on yes, it is going to ask for again related details of that travel. So I'll just click on no and move forward. Travel history. Have you ever stayed in Canada beyond the validity? They have never been to Canada, so I click on no. Have you ever been refused a visa permit, denied entry to any other country? I click on no, and then click on save and continue. The basic checks about security. So I will just quickly select no because they are like, have you ever committed crime? Have you ever been arrested? Have you ever been charged for drugs? Convicted for a criminal offense? No. Criminal and security questions. Are you or have you been a member of associated political party? Again, no. Medical background questions. Have you had a medical exam performed by an Ircc authorized panel physician in the past 12 months? So we select no and move forward. The point is, you are not anyways asked to provide a medical history or medical certificate when you're traveling as a visitor. So because government is not going to take care of your healthcare expenses, you have to buy insurance for your own self, right? In the last 2 years, where you were diagnosed with tuberculosis? No. In the past 5 years, have you been close contact with a person with tuberculosis? No. We are still in the medical history section. Are you currently receiving any dialysis treatment? Have you had a drugs or alcohol addiction? It's all no for our case, but you will select yes appropriately based on your condition. So next we move to the family information section. In here you are going to indicate what is the marital status of your parent. In this case, since I'm applying for my father, I will select my father is married and the date of marriage is, let's suppose, 1985. The name of spouse, so it's going to be my mother's information, so I'll just write Khandelwal. The next is, will your spouse or common law partner accompany you to Canada? So I selected yes because my parents are going to travel together. And the same responses I provided when I created my mother's application. And in her case, when I'm going to select will your spouse travel to Canada, that is my father, I will select again yes. So click on save and continue. We are still in family information. Do you have biological or adopted stepchildren? You have to select yes. So this indicates that I am the son who is inviting my father and my parents to be here in Canada, and that's my address information. So the next is, if the child is not in Canada, will they accompany you in Canada? In my case, I am already residing in Canada as a PR, right? And let's suppose my parents do not have any other child, that is, I do not have a sibling. In that case, I will just select no. But if I have a sibling who is not going to come to Canada, but I have to still disclose that information, I cannot just hide that. And so here I'll just click on no and save. So next is, tell us about your parents, that is the applicant's parents. Now the question is all about my grandfather and grandmother Okay, so if you were adopted, you do not need to provide these details. Okay, or if you do not know your parents' information, you can click on I don't know who my parents are and then move forward. But in our case, I do have that information because my parents' passport has got that information on written on that. So I'll just click on plus and add the information about my grandfather. Now in our case, my father did not know what the date of birth my grandfather had. So you have that option of not knowing the date of birth. So if you click on the year of birth, the year was tentative, that is 1930, and in the month we selected unknown. In the day we also selected unknown. So it's fine because you are not going to anyways provide any documentation. There is no proof that is asked for your parents' parent. If your grandparents are living, then it's fine. You can move forward with the rest of the fields. If not, you can click on this parent is deceased and provide the date when they passed away. So here I know that the date and year was 2003. You might not have all that information right away. So you just select the date or time or whatever that information is just for a placeholder, save the record to get the right information and come back and update that info. So likewise, you're going to provide the information about the applicant's mother, in this case my grandmother. I will not write that because it's pretty much the same, and you move to the next, save and continue. Language of the applicant, the mother tongue is Hindi. Can you communicate in English? Yes. What language do you use? English, not French. Email address of the applicant. Here I just provided my email address. It doesn't really matter that my parents are getting a separate email address or not, because anyways whatever the email communication that they are going to get is going to be coming to me directly. So here I intentionally provided their telephone number so that if someone is going to call them, at least they can call them directly rather than calling to me. So now we arrive at the summary page. So in the summary, it's just all the responses that you have already provided in the prior sections of the form have been just summarized here. If you want to make changes to any of the responses, you can go and do that by clicking on this edit button for individual respective sections. The one thing that I will highly recommend is when you move to further sections of the form and then when you attach the documents and when you pay the fees and you submit the form, you will not be able to retrieve the responses that you had provided when you had submitted the application. So what I would suggest is when you come to this page, click on expand all, and once you do that, all the responses that you have provided for all the questions will be just displayed. And you click on the browser button to print the page, and once you click on print, the system will keep a record of whatever the responses that you had provided, so that at some point in time, if I want to just look back and see what were the responses provided for, let's say dates, the time, the purpose of travel, I can always refer to that, right? So that will be a good thing to do, because once you move forward, you will not be able to receive the responses. Assuming that you have already gone through the individual sections questions one more time to make sure that there are no errors, you click on save and continue. Now we land to the best part of the application, which is documents. What all documents you are required to provide in your application. The beauty of this portal is that based on the responses that you had provided in the prior sections, system is going to point out what are the documents that you are required to provide. Okay, and there will be some required and there will be some optional as well. Here there are some instructions. Let's first go through the instructions. It's fairly straightforward. You can only provide one attachment for one category of the requested document. For example, if a funds proof is required, if you're attaching 5 or 10 different types of funds proof document, you have to compile that into one PDF, and that one PDF cannot exceed 2 MB of the file size. In fact, all the attachments that you provide cannot exceed 2 MB per file. Attachments can only be of these file formats: TIFF, PNG, JPG, doc, PDF. And if your file is larger than 2 MB, you need to provide multiple files in one upload field. In here, as you see, based on the responses that we have provided, the supporting documents required are letter of invitation, passport, funds proof, use of representative because I am the representative, marriage certificate of the applicant, and then there are optional documents which says consent, personal information, employer letter, current, and additional documents. Now, employment letter is showing up only because I had indicated that my father is still working. If you had not selected that, and if you had selected they are retired, then this document would not show up. And again, it's anyways optional, so you can still opt not to provide that information, but I would recommend that if it is showing up, provide it. All right, so now let's go one by one. What are the documents that we actually provided and the content of it? So letter of invitation, first of all, let's look at the letter, how it was written. It's a long letter that we wrote. I would not say that that is the only way it can be written. The letter of invitation should still, however, contain the information like the purpose and length of your visit, the nature and relationship between you and the person who is inviting you, the contact information of the person inviting you, and whether they are citizens or PR. You can also provide any additional information which can substantiate the reason for your travel or make a convincing argument for you to be here in the country. So this is the letter of invitation that we wrote. I have intentionally scrubbed some information on this letter for obvious reasons, but you will still get the idea. So it is directed to the visa officer, Consulate General of Canada. Letter of invitation is the header, and then we have a date. Subject: letter of invitation for our parents, the name of the parents. Dear sir, I, Ankita Bhatt, my wife, and my husband, Ankit Harish Khandelwal, because it's written from my wife's perspective. It can be from anyone's, are obliged to write this letter in support of our parents, the name of the parents, and passport number of each of those parents. So we indicated that as well to connect the dots. For tourist visa application for travel to Canada, their contact information and relationship is provided towards the end of the letter. Evidently, the purpose of this trip is family unification. I, Ankita Bhatt, came to Canada in September 2021, permanent resident, reunite with my husband, blah, blah, blah. So you get what we are trying to explain, like why we are wanting them to come here and what is the purpose that is going to be served. So it's for family unification. It's fall period. We want to spend some time together. That's what the intention is. Describing something, who we are. So I am an IT professional currently working for an XYZ company. That's my wife, as a manager on a full-time payroll, and my husband, who is me, is also an IT professional working for an XYZ company at the manager level. Now, since my arrival in Canada, we have been having a lot of happy fun moments. Sometime we just wanted to spend some time with our parents as well. It has been quite some time that we have not seen them, and we really feel fortunate when our parents are experiencing new places like us. We have also pointed out a short tentative itinerary which we are planning to go through once our parents are here. So we plan to have our parents visit for the fall for 1 month between the travel dates between September 1 and September 30th, 2023. And we plan to spend most of our time together as a family exploring places in Ontario like Algonquin, Niagara, cruise in Thousand Islands, Blue Mountain, and of course Toronto's downtown. Now, though we are providing the proof of funds as a separate document, we are also indicating in the letter of invitation that we will be booking their flight tickets once we get the confirmation of their visa. They will be staying with us at our house at the aforementioned address. It is a 3-bedroom townhouse in which the primary bedroom is occupied by my husband and I, and the other 2 are currently unoccupied, where we plan to accommodate our parents. So this indicates that our parents have got a place to stay as well in our own house. Okay, and while our parents are here, my husband and I, reiterating the fact that we are going to bear their expenses, including but not limited to food, travel, booking, visa fees, travel insurance, and all other expenses. Okay, and we also are promising that our parents will go back to their home country at their respective places after the end of the trip. We also have provided like a reasoning that my siblings are still back in India and we have our own house which needs to be taken care of. My wife's mother is still working and she needs to go back to her employment. She cannot have leaves more than 30 days, for example. So this is the explanation that we have provided to justify the reason for them to travel to Canada. What are the things that they are going to do while they are here, and how are they going to manage their expenses? And when they end the trip, they will be going back to the home country. So signing off, sincerely, the name of my wife, my name, our email address, contact information, and all that stuff. And towards the end, here's a small table that I created. I felt that it's a cleaner way of explaining the relationship between all of us. So my wife's information, that is inviter 1, her full name, her parents' name, and their information about their date of birth and all that stuff, and her passport copy in which the name of the parents are showing up in the parents field. Similarly, inviter 2, that's me, table for me as well, and then attach the image of my passport copy to show my parents' name. So this was the letter of invitation. You click on add file and we make the attachment. And once it is uploaded, you will get this confirmation that the file has been uploaded. Passport travel document, this is for each applicant. Right now it's for my father, so my father's passport travel document is going to be attached. If there are any pages that are stamped, you have to scan all those pages as well. So it says if you have a passport, you must provide a copy of the pages that show your date of birth and country of origin, and any pages with stamps and visas or markings. Okay. So my father does not have any stamping, so we just did with the first page and the last page, the date of birth and India address. So if I click on here and make the passport attachment, that's uploaded as well. The proof of funds, what all you can first provide as proof of funds is all explained in this section. So it says if you won't be getting any financial support from someone during your stay, then you are going to provide this information. If you will be dependent on someone financially during your stay, which is the case in our application, you have to provide all this information, like proof of Canadian bank account of the person, proof of a student or education loan, bank statement, a bank draft, proof of payments. There are a lot of options and a lot of different type of documentation that you can provide. In summary, what we provided is this. So it was one single PDF which had a combination of a letter of explanation at the first and documents towards the end. The letter of explanation simply stated that my husband and I, that is my wife and me, are going to be supporting our parents while they are going to be here on as a visitor, and we have provided the bank statements, pay stubs and letter of employment towards the end in this file. So all clubbed into one. So this is one single PDF. First page letter of explanation, and if you scroll further, you will find the bank statements for 3 months, and then we had the pay stubs from our employer, and towards the end I also provided a letter of employment or current employment for my employer. This was proof of funds. Let's attach that file as well. In the proof of funds, it's all our documents that were provided. We did not provide any documents for our parents' side because we did not have them, right? But if your parents have got, let's say, fixed deposits in your bank accounts, or they have some mutual funds which are liquid enough that they can sell off, you can obviously provide that. You can also provide proof of financial properties or any other thing that is you are already having. In fact, that is one way of indicating that you will be actually going back to your home country because you have some real estate lying there. So there are a lot of different proofs that you can provide. It's just a matter of thinking through on what all things can be justifying enough that you will be able to sustain yourself while you're in the country. Use of representative. As I said, I am creating the application for my parents and my wife's parents, and I will be representing them. So all communication has to come to me. So for that, you have to download and provide this use of representative form. You cannot download this form right from this portal. It does not have that option. So you have to copy this IMM 5476, and in Google, just paste this search keyword. You will find this first link, use of representative, and here's the file. You download this form, fill it up, have it signed by your parents who are the applicants, and then you are also going to sign because you are the representative, and you upload it back in this portal on this section. Now I already have a very detailed video on how to fill up this form. It's on my channel. You can find the links above, and once you have done, you will be clicking on this add file and upload the use of representative form. So let's suppose if I just do a random document upload. Marriage certificate. My parents do not have a marriage certificate. What we did was we provided a letter of explanation and the copies of the passport for both of our parents to indicate that their names are showing up in the respective spouse sections. So here's the letter of explanation for our parents' marriage certificate. So letter of explanation to whomsoever it may concern, furnishing spouse passport as alternate proof for marriage certificate. And we wrote this from perspective of every single applicant because even my wife's parents did not have that marriage certificate. So in this case, my father is writing, I, Harish Kumar, got married to my mother on XYZ date. As per Hindu traditions, back in time, we did not get a marriage certificate and we never felt the need to have one. I understand that a marriage certificate is mandatory. So in order to prove our marriage, I'm just providing passport copy of me and my wife that indicates that we are recognized as each other's spouse. And here's the passport copy in which their names are showing up in the spouse section for both of them. And their passports are showing up side by side. And the thing is, it's a mandatory document. So you have to provide some sort of proof in marriage certificate. You can also find this explanation in this section. And in proof of marriage, we attached that too. Optional documents. Consent, personal information, we did not really provide this one because there was no indication of where we can download this form, so we just left it out. Employer letter, as I said, if you have an employment letter currently, you can provide that. It's an optional document, not mandatory, but I would recommend to provide that if your parents are working, okay, or if you are working, if you are applying it for yourself. And additional documents. So if there are any documents that explains or provides any further reason for you to be in the country, that is what you can provide. So we wrote a purpose of travel from perspective of our parents. So here's the purpose of travel. It is addressed to the visa officer. I, Harish Kumar, my father from India, writing this letter to provide details about the purpose of my trip to Canada. Now the content of this is already indicated in the letter of invitation from our side. But the thing is, I wanted to write a letter from the perspective of the applicant himself, that he is promising that he is going to be in the country, go through this itinerary, and then he's promising that he will go back to the country due to XYZ reasons. That's what the whole intention was. And it's an optional document. It was not required, but I felt that it is going to be a good way of indicating that my father or the applicant has got a very good intention to be here and go back. So if we upload that as well. So once we have uploaded all the documents that were requested, you can click on save and continue to move further. Here you will have to provide your consent and declaration that whatever the information that you have provided in the aforementioned sections is true and valid. You click on yes and sign it digitally. So it is signed from the perspective of the applicant. So you just write Hari Kumar. So in the fee section, there are two breakdowns. One is for biometrics, if it is applicable, and visitor visa. Visitor visa fees is $100. Biometrics is $85. So you have to pay $185 and you can use any credit card or any mode of payment to make the payment. But the thing is, in our case, since we had 4 applicants, we did not went ahead to just pay the fees right away. I created 4 applications all together in that single group that we had originally created, right? The parents group. So once you fill up the form for all the applicants and attach the document for respective applicants, you can come to this page again to have a final summary of the fees. So you will have, if there are 4 people, which was in our case, we made the fees of 185 cross 4 total amount, and then we went ahead. If you click on save and continue, it will take you to the payment page or payment gateway where you can enter your card details and then make the payment, right? This is where we will stop. So once you're done and once you have submitted the application, you will get a confirmation message in your respective email addresses and also in the representatives that your application has been submitted and is being processed. Alright, so this completes the walkthrough of how you can create an application for visitor visa, and then what are the documents that you're going to upload, how you can upload them, how are the fees going to be paid, and what's the fees amount. Okay, so this is the end of this section. So this was one way of applying for a visitor visa, but there is also a time-tested avenue by which you can apply for the same category of visa. That is called a GCK. So GCK is the time tested, it has been used for many years and it is still being used, whereas the new visitor visa portal, as the name suggests, it's new. GCK requires you to download PDFs, fill them up, have them signed, upload it back, whereas the new portal, as we did the walkthrough, it's all questionnaire based and it's all in the application, it's in the browser. So you just provide responses and move toward the end and it will just give you indication of what all the documents are required. In the GCK, you also have to mandatorily provide photos of the applicants, whereas in the new portal, as you have seen, there was no requirement for you to provide the applicant's photograph, which is a good thing. Towards the end, it is also said, I do not know for sure, that the applications that are applied using the GCK take a while longer than the ones that are applied using the new visa portal. But the new visa portal does make use of the AI-based algorithms, which quickens up the decision-making process for the applications. But then I am not so comfortable, at least I was not comfortable then, to apply using something which is going to be decided by a machine program. So I had that concern, but I went through the website and I went through some IRCC notes whether AI is actually going to take the decisions or not. I learned that it is not true. AI just facilitates and streamlines the information for the immigration officer, but the actual decision or rejection and approval is actually done by the officers. So that was a convincing argument for me to not go with GCK, but rather than try the new portal. And finally, in terms of technical challenges, GCK still has got a limit or an upper limit of file sizes of 4 MB for each file attachments. The new portal does not give you that. The new portal only gives you 2 MB. That is one document. Compile the file size if it is exceeding 2 MB and then make that attachment. But it's not a big concern. I don't think that I have seen files exceeding 2 MB in my case. So that was the convincing argument for me to go ahead with the new portal than the GCK. Alright, so this brings us to the end of this video. I know that the video has been stretched out because it contains a lot of information, but I hope that you find it helpful. And as you know, our parents are already here, so we are going to make another video in the timeline that actually went through to get this application processed. What were the events, what were their experiences, the travel experience, travel insurance that we bought, the flights that we booked, all of that, and their experience as well, that they have been staying in this country for a few weeks now. Alright, so this brings us to the end of this video. I hope that you found this video to be helpful, and if you did, I will really appreciate if you can let me know in the form of a like or as a comment. And if you're someone who is already having a visitor visa and you would like to share your experience, even that will be much appreciated, at least for the community members who would know and benefit from that information. Besides that, if you have any questions or you want to reach us out, you can contact us on Instagram. Our handle is in the description box below. And until we meet next time, take care. Bye-bye. So as I was saying earlier, when you are writing this form, when you are filling up this form, आजा